average, about 10% of Americans have faith in these institutions, and they run our narratives, the decision-making process, our regulations. It's insane. What do the people want, right? That's supposed to be what runs this bitch. This is the United States of America. What the people want matters, right? Whether you think it's a republic or a democracy or a democratic republic, whatever you want to call it, the people's influence on our representatives is a vital part of the American way, or so they say. Now let's check this out. Most Americans don't want Trump or Biden to run again, poll finds. This is from Forbes. Just 29% of Americans want President Joe Biden to run for re-election, while 39% want former President Donald Trump to run in 2024, according to a poll released Friday by Harvard's University Center for American Political Studies and Harris Insight and Analytics. Among those who said they didn't want the 79-year-old Biden to run again, the most common stated reason was that he's a bad president, 45%. That's astonishing. Too old at 30%, and it's time for a change at 26%. Which I think that all of those things, like he's a bad president because he's too old, and it's time for a change. Like, these are all like, it's like those all kind of are underneath the umbrella of being a bad president, in my opinion. Meanwhile, the most popular rationale for not supporting Trump's campaign was because he's erratic, 36%, will divide the country, 33%, and his responsibility for the January 6th insurrection, riot, 30%. So we're looking at that. It's like, yeah. And this, again, it's all kind of his erraticness, I guess is how you would say that. Maybe not. I don't know. But you get what I'm saying. Does divide the country and did lead to the riots on January 6th. So they're all kind of nested under one thing. Like, there's a broad concept here that kind of ties these all together. The poll is conducted among 1,308 registered voters on June 28th and 29th. The survey found that an increasing share of people believe the country is on the wrong track. 75% of respondents, up from 62 last month, said that. Whoa. Hang on. 75% of respondents, up from 62% last month's poll and just 39% in June 2021. So just look at that. Look at that. 39 in June 2021 to 62 last month and then 70. We're just like, the vast majority of the country is so displeased with how this is all shaken out. The poll found just 32% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economy overall. Who were that 32%? Who were those 32%? Like, guaranteed those people have Ukrainian flags hanging out in front of their house. The poll found just 32% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economy overall, a low since he took office, while 28% approve of his handling of inflation, also a low. So, here's where we're at. It's crazy. A surprising fact. This is funny. Surprising fact. Trump leads Biden 44% to 39% in a hypothetical 2024 rematch. That's a surprise? That is not a surprising fact. That is, it speaks to where we're at as a nation. That these inept candidates are who we're even having a conversation about. Neither one of these people ever should have been in the White House. Outside of the Obama administration with Biden, but still. In the Oval Office, neither one of these motherfuckers should have been in there, but it is what it is. Now, to kind of speak to where people are the crumbling of the Biden luster, I guess you could call it, is pervasive. It's quite pervasive. It says, we got there from the New York Post, Joe's a lost cause. No plan, no hope from Biden, say blunt lefties. Now, of course, the New York Post is kind of a right-leaning organization, so there's a little bit of inflammation in here, and this is kind of written as an opinion article, even though I don't think it's marked as such. It says, for Joe Biden, the calls are now coming from inside the house. A little Scream reference there. On a volatile group chat of left-leaning celebrities and Biden apparatchiks, CNN reports that anger was in the air. Will and Grace star Deborah Messing was apparently yelling that there was no point to voting. She was fed up. When you've lost Deborah Messing. Meanwhile, former Obama political guru David Axelrod said the administration looks out of control. No shit. Democrats had hoped the dramatic reversal of Roe versus Wade last month would be a boon to their prospects in November, that it would light a fire under their voters and drive them to the polls. But so far, the fire from the left is directed at the White House itself. Holy shit. It's like being a bunch of do-nothing for decades has finally turned into resentment for the Democratic Party from within the Democratic establishment and the Democratic base. Funny how that works. It only took 20 fucking years. It only took that long for people to understand. It only took from the Clinton era for us to realize that these motherfuckers are not looking out for our best interests and are only in it for themselves. Funny how that works. Funny how when the party decided to depart from the party of FDR and it turned into the party of Bill Clinton, it took this long for us to realize that was a bad idea. To ditch the working class and become the party of white collar coastal elites. That was a bad idea. And we're just now realizing it. And even Deborah Messing from Real and Grace is turning her tune here. Despite the norm exploding leak from the court, the administration still was caught flat-footed when the decision dropped. Aides were literally out getting coffee, leading to the president's weak and widely panned remarks. Does he have a plan? Spoiler alert, for those who didn't pay attention to Afghanistan, Build Back Better, or COVID, or any other bungled task, he doesn't have a plan, no. Now, Afghanistan was handled relatively poorly, but that was always going to be a shit show, and I will die on that hill. And I'm glad that's like the only thing that Biden did that really made any sense at all, even though it was done poorly. But what can you expect? What has the United States military done overseas that wasn't done? Even getting a hold of Osama bin Laden was a shit show. It crashed a fucking helicopter in the process. Like, so much has been done poorly, but getting out of Afghanistan was the right move. It just wasn't done super well. Yeah, he doesn't have a plan. No. And their response to this, look at this photo of Deborah Messing, by the way. Like, that's just not a flattering photo. The response, well, like, they could have had a million things. Here's with Roe versus Wade, and this could have been a time, right? If the leaked opinion would have came out, Democrats organized and did some really common sense things, right? Because they can put legislation on the floor. They could have said, okay, we're going to do these separately, right? Rape and incest, federal exemptions from whatever laws are at the state. Rape and incest, federal exemptions, right? Do a separate one for birth defect issues, threats to the mother. Like, that way that these doctors, because a lot of these doctors in these states that have banned abortions, like the fines are 10 years in prison, $100,000, sometimes both. So they're scared to even do their job, to create medical interventions when medical interventions are needed, even though it's not a voluntary birth control style, or what the right would call a birth control style abortion. Like, there's serious complications, and they need to terminate the pregnancy. It's a really sad thing. It's not somebody who wanted to do that, but they have to make the best choice for themselves. Same thing goes for developmental issues like Down syndrome. I understand that's a very contentious topic, but that's a decision somebody needs to be able to make personally for themselves, because when you do have a child that has the level of need that someone with Down syndrome or a similar issue has, not that those people don't deserve to be alive, I get it, but at the same time, the amount of money and the amount of resources that's going to take is exorbitant. Like, you're going to put yourself in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt with medical issues. You have to have a full-time caretaker and things like that, which most people don't have access to. If you do and you want to bring a child like that into the world, more power to you. You're a fucking hero. I get it. But at the same time, we can't expect everyone to have that level of resource. They could put that on the floor. They could say, hey, we're going to put out a 12-week, right, guaranteed for 12 weeks, and then make some kind of compromises, put that on the floor and just see who votes for it. See what the votes are and then use that. But there was zero organization. One thing you can say about the pro-life right, or I should start saying this, the anti-abortion right, I'm trying to change that rhetoric a little bit within myself here. One thing you can say about them is that they're very organized. They are very organized, and it shows. It shows. They've been working on this diligently for a long, long time, since Roe v. Wade was decided by the Supreme Court in 1973. I mean, they've been on this for a long time, and have now finally gained a little bit of leverage because they've lost every culture war since then. And they were clowns for a long time, and they still kind of are, in my opinion, but a very organized group of clowns that are able to make things happen. So it's really, really interesting. And then if we look at that in conjunction with this new Gallup poll here, confidence in U.S. institutions is down, average at new lows. So let's look at this chart here. Change in Americans' confidence in major U.S. institutions 21 to 22. So 2021 to 2022. It says, and here's the question was asked, how the question was asked. Now I'm going to read you a list of institutions in American society. Please tell me how much confidence you have yourself. You yourself have in each one, a great deal, quite a lot, some or very little. So small businesses here, 70% in 2021, 68% in 2022, a marginal difference there, probably with inside the margin of error. The military still has some support. The police went from 51% to 45%. That probably should be a little bit less than that. I mean, now faith in the police to like do police shit? Yeah. Should you trust every police officer just because? No, absolutely not. The medical system went from 44 to 38. Again, I think that should probably be lower. The church or organized religion went from 37% to 31 because their behavior has been quite atrocious over the past year, in my opinion. Public schools have gone from 32 to 28. Again, these are small dips, but they do matter, right? Organized labor has stayed the same at 28%. Banks, I don't know why that's as high as it is at 33 and then 27 in 2022. Large tech companies from 29 to 26. So a little drop there in large tech companies. The U.S. Supreme Court, now this was done before the leak for Roe v. Wade, or the decision came down, went from 36 to 25. So that's a big drop there, one of the biggest on record here. The presidency went from 38% to 23%. And that's not going to change, right? I'm sure that was, I wonder what that was in like the Obama era. Kind of the last time we had like a real president, even though he did some really dumb shit. Yeah, weird. Newspapers from 21% to 16%. Criminal justice system from 20 to 14. Big business from 18 to 14. Television news from 16 to 11%. You can't even fit the 11 inside of the little bar here. Congress from 12 to 7%. Now, these are the big ones, right? Big business, television news, Congress. Newspapers, I feel like, do a better job than television news. But let's just think about these big business, television news, and Congress. These are where a lot of the attention gets spent, right? Look how little faith America has in these institutions and has had in these institutions. But think about who drives the narratives and who makes the decisions on what happens in this country. Primarily these three organizations or three institutions that have between on average, about 1 in 10 Americans trust these institutions and have faith in them. On average, about 10% of Americans have faith in these institutions, and they run our narratives, the decision-making process, our regulations. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So what we're looking at here is kind of an America that's, in my opinion, pretty I mean, and the reasons why we don't trust these institutions is it varies. There's not a one reason in this whole thing, right? Like, we don't trust the office of the president, and we haven't for a long time. You know, you can go back to what happened with Bush, Iraq, Afghanistan, how that all shook out. You can go into the Obama years and how he promised things that never happened and was owned by Citibank, it seems, and the bailouts. Like, big business has done itself no favors in this whole situation. Congress the same, right? But the reasons we distrust these people are for very different reasons. So there's not a single solution to really to create more faith in these institutions. And I was actually at the Heterodox conference, and Batya Sargon was speaking, and I actually wanted to ask this question so bad because it was a really great panel of people from a very diverse backgrounds. I wanted to ask, and this is the real question, and something worth thinking about, like, will these institutions realize that they've lost our trust? They've lost the trust of the American public because they don't deserve it. They didn't earn the trust. They didn't respect the American people. And will there ever come a time where they decide they need to earn back our trust? Now, you'll see the reasons that, like, let's just say television news, right? Rachel Maddow will blame the lack of trust in MSNBC on Trump and misinformation. And if you go to Fox News, it's kind of the same in the other direction. It's, you know, everybody wants to play the victim. These large institutions that have so much power always want to play the victim. And they never take a second to step back and say, hey, maybe we should take some time and like really understand how we can earn trust in our institution. We need to earn it back with action, not a bunch of bullshit, right? Virtue signaling left, right, whatever it is. Where are they ever going to earn it back? And is there ever going to be a presidential candidate, right? As we're looking at nobody wanting Trump or Biden, but that being very likely being the way we go about it. Now, I think running Biden as a Democrat right now is actually the best move. Right, for the Democratic establishment, is to run Biden, let him get beat to death, because that's what's going to happen if he even makes it that far. He's going to get absolutely blown out, and then you don't waste another candidate that you like. That being said, I'd rather be somebody like Pete Buttigieg. Kamala Harris is a joke, so Pete Buttigieg, let him get the shit beat out of him, so he doesn't look electable at all, and then you lose the electability narrative going into later elections. So let's just burn your shitty candidates, all of them, if you can, right? Joe Biden's burned, Kamala Harris is burned. Burn Pete Buttigieg, and then you've lost your kind of like your little three-headed dragon there as far as like what your hopes for the future, and you've got to completely reevaluate yourself. the better option for me, as far as like what would be better for the people. Now that would be better for the establishment, because then they could like reevaluate how they want to have somebody pretend to be a populist from the left and all this other bullshit that does actually absolutely nothing, kind of like Obama's second coming. What I think would be better is a complete overhaul of the Democratic Party by force, right? By an outsider coming in and taking over that party and doing what Trump did with the Republican Party, right? Somebody from the populist left, ideally, probably somebody with some celebrity. I've brought up Mark Cuban several times, somebody like that, because America gets hard for celebrities for some fucking reason. It is what it is. You got to play the game. You've got to play the game. So it's really challenging to wrap your mind around like how little we trust these institutions, right? But then when you actually zoom out and think about all they've done over the decades, just whittle away our respect in them. And it seems like when it comes to the DNC and the RNC, the establishments of both these parties, it's like they would prefer for us not to have a quality candidate so they can keep us distracted and kind of LARP as culture warriors, while they have to do nothing of value, nothing of substance, and take very little risk. But hey, that's just me. That's just what I think. It just seems to be the logical conclusion. I don't know. I want to share with you what it takes to create this kind of content. I have to sift through piles and piles of bullshit from political ideologues that are completely ridiculous and try and find the truth. I've got to go from the left to the right to the center, all over the place. It's exhausting. I'm losing my fucking mind. But one thing you can do to help me out and help my mental health is subscribe to this channel. Turn on post notifications, like this video, leave a comment, just something, please. I'm losing my shit and you're the only one that can help me. Subscribe to the channel.